Right. Man, I'm excited. I'm excited you guys are here. And it's been an incredible series so far. This is the fourth week of this series. It was supposed to be a 6-week series, but I made the decision last week that we're going to extend it by 1 week, and we're going to make it a 7-week series. And we're going to have a lot of fun. Week 4, week 5, week 6, and then week 7. And we're going to do some stuff that I think is going to be a lot of fun. I put a poll. I don't know if y'all saw it or not. Some of you did. I found out who tells the truth, who doesn't tell the truth. And I found out who just ignores stuff when they don't want to answer. You know what I mean? I put a poll up online. Some of you didn't see it. You don't know what I'm talking about. That just said, have you and or will you watched any of the, what's it called? I can't remember what it's called. What's it called? What? Oh, 50 Shades. Yeah, 50 Shades of Grey. I was trying to remember what it was called. I kept wanting to say Christian Grey, but that's the name of the guy that's in the movie. And nonetheless, I asked how many of you have seen the first one or the second one, and then now there's a third one that came out. And a lot of you answered, and the poll was like, I don't know, 30% said they had seen it and will see it, and then 70% said that you hadn't seen it. But I think that 70% is probably, I don't think it's cut in half. I think there's probably about 20% that lied. And then I also think that there's a lot of people that saw it. There was like, because I can see the stats on my little deal. It'll tell you how many people saw it and didn't vote. And there was like 4,500 people that saw it that did not vote, which you can, it is what it is, right? I'm trying to decide what that means. I think it means that a lot of people were like, this is on my pastor's page, and I'm not real sure about this. I'm not sure what he's getting at. Maybe this is a trick question. So the last week of the series, I think we might do it the week before the last week. I don't know yet. But we're going to do what would Jesus say to Christian Grey. And listen, it's not going to be what you think it is, because some of you are like, I can't wait for that one because he's going to tell him that he's, no, it's not. It's not going to be like that. It's going to be awesome. So make sure that you're here. What would Jesus say to Christian Grey? And some of you, that's going to be fun. It's going to be a fun day. It is. And it's going to be a fun day today as well, because we're going to talk about how to fight a little bit. And how many of you are fighters? You're a fighter. You're not a fleer. You're a fighter. Like your go-to is to fight. That's good. I'm a little bit of a fighter. I'll fight back. And I'm not just talking about relationally, like back me into a corner. Some people will kind of sit down in the corner, and other people will figure out a way to fight their way out of it. I'm a fight my way out of stuff, even sometimes when I don't even need to fight my way out. I think I do. And so as a result, I just start fighting for no reason. That's me. Apart from the Spirit of God, I would fight a lot more. But thankfully, the Spirit of God keeps me a little bit more chill. And we're going to talk about that today, because some of you are fighters and some of you are not. And a lot of times it depends on how you grew up, your family of origin, how all that stuff works, how you respond relationally. And what's always funny, because we always hear this, I don't do any counseling. I'm the worst counselor in American history. Of all the pastors in the world, I'm the worst counselor. I actually think that people that always go to pastors for counseling need to realize that pastors are not counselors, that we know counselors and we should refer you, because sometimes we'll do more damage to you than what you're already in, because I'm a fixer. I want to fix everything, and I want to be like, sir, you're always fighting because you're really, really stupid. And ma'am, you are always this way because you are nitpicking all the time. And counselors need to listen more than they talk. And that's the opposite of me. And so as a result, I have a lot of counselor friends, and I push people to them and let them help each other. But one of the things I see all the time is when a fighter gets married to another fighter, and then they just fight. I mean, they fight all the time. They fight about what restaurant they're going to. It just started out, which one do you want to go to? And she said, I don't know. Which one do you want to go to? And then he said, why don't you ever pick? And then she said, why don't you ever pick? And then all of a sudden, what started out as a restaurant choice turns into a knockdown, drag-out fight right there in the mall parking lot, and you got to call policemen. You know what I mean? Like, it's one of those things. You see it everywhere. I see it all the time, and maybe or maybe not have ever been in that situation. It is what it is. We'll see. We'll see how many personal illustrations come out of this message. But I will say this when it comes to marriage, because I don't know how you were, but you ever seen people get married and then you heard the responses and the advice that people got, like, hey, man, you just need to know the first year is going to be tough. The first year is going to be tough. And then second year is going to be even harder than the first year. And then the third year, that's when all hell breaks loose. And then the fourth year, that's when you want to kill everybody. And then the fifth year, the fifth year's bad, the sixth year's bad, and then the seventh year's that 7-year itch thing, and that's when everybody gets divorced. And then in the eighth year, you ever heard people like that? And all of a sudden you're like, I don't ever want to get married, ever, for any reason. If I listen to so-and-so, Debbie Downer, all the time. I want to show you something that's a little bit different in the Bible. Proverbs chapter 18, verse 22 says this: find a good spouse. Now here's the key word. There is a key word out of those four, and it's not the word find. The key word there is good, right? Say amen, somebody. This is the key word, is find a good spouse, because some of y'all found a crazy spouse. I got friends. How many of you got friends, and they're awesome, but they married crazy? You know what I'm talking about? If you didn't raise your hand, I don't even got to say nothing. I'm just telling you, I know some really good people that marry some really crazy people. And if you marry crazy, it's only a matter of time before you're crazy. And it sounds like I'm joking about that, and I kind of am, but I am so dang serious. You have got to find the right spouse. Find a good spouse. Say good. That's the key to life. If you find a good spouse, you will find a good life. Now, the alternative to that is also true. Now, and even more, if you find a good spouse, you will find, or you have found, the favor of God. I don't know what your perceptions are of marriage, those of you that are married and have been married, and those of you that are not married, and you're trying to decide if you want to get married, and those of you that were married, now you're not married, and then now maybe you're married again, or you want to get married again, or you're thinking about getting married again, or you don't even know what it is that's going on in the world. I want to say this about marriage. I think marriage is and can be amazing. It's like it can be torture if you find the wrong spouse, or if you are the wrong spouse in the context of the relationship, because a lot of times the people that complain about marrying the wrong spouse, sometimes they were also the wrong spouse, and there's two wrong spouses going at each other and chaos ensues. That's a whole nother message. But I would say that if you look at it the right way, it can be like a slumber party that never ends with your best friend. Really, it can be amazing. And that would have been, let me coach you on something. Those of you that are sitting next to the person you're married to, that would have been a really good time to say, amen, Pastor, that is so right. And grab the hand of the person you're sitting next to. But some of y'all missed that chance. You missed your shot, because I said it and y'all just looked at me. And that's kind of awkward for you. It's not awkward for me. It keeps my counselor friends in business, the response that y'all just had. But nonetheless, it can be amazing. And the thing that I think you need to know, though, about an amazing relationship doesn't mean that you don't have to fight for it. Nothing in life that's good comes easy. There's nothing good in life that just comes easy. Matter of fact, I don't even know if great marriage comes natural to people like you and I, who are born sinful, we're born selfish. It takes the supernatural touch of God a lot of times to be able to do this marriage thing and to be able to do it well. And I would say that the key is going to be, are you willing to fight? Now, I'm not talking about fighting in the relationship as much as I'm talking about fighting for the relationship. A lot of us, we spend so much time fighting in it that we don't spend any time fighting for it. And if you don't spend any time fighting for it, then it's only a matter of time before that was the previous and or the past instead of the present relationship that you're in. So what I want to do today, remember, I've told you this this is the fourth week of this series. I've told you this is not about yesteryear. I don't even know if that's a word, but it's a very uncommon word. It's not about your past. It's not about the last relationship you were in. I don't care about that, because did you know we can't change it? That's why I say we don't care about it, because we can't change it. I can't change anything about it. Neither can you. So stop living in the past. From this day forward, this is how it is that we can live our lives. Whether you're in a relationship in the context in a romantic context, or maybe this is going to be helpful for you in the context of just your normal relationships with friends and family and coworkers and colleagues and classmates and everything else, because the principles apply regardless of the relationship that you're in. You're going to have to fight for the relationship if you want to have a great relationship. The best friendships that you have are the friendships with whom you have been through some things. where you've experienced some highs, you've experienced some lows. That's one of the things that makes you appreciate the friendship more. I'll be honest, one of the things that helps me love this place called Freedom Church more is the highs and the lows and being able to go through all the different seasons, because then when you're at the top and then you're at the bottom or you're somewhere in between, you remember back to how faithful God has been. And even when you were at the top, God was good. But even when you were at the bottom, God was good. And God always does his thing. It's awesome to be able to see that, not only in the context of you organizationally, but in the context of your life relationally. But it all depends on if you're willing to fight, and not everybody is. We'll talk about that. Here's the first thing you got to do if you want to have the relationship that God wants you to have, if you want to be able to enjoy the relationships that you're in, right? Because we all do, I hope. I hope there's none of those weird people out there that are, I don't want to enjoy it, I just want to make it through. No, you want to enjoy it. God came so that you could have an abundant life, not just at heaven one day, but to experience heaven here and now. It's possible. And here's the first way. You got to do this. This is uncomfortable, but you got to do it. You got to learn how to step into conflict. Look to somebody next to you after you write that down and say, step into conflict. Step into conflict. Watch this. Matthew chapter 5, verse 9 gives us some keys. It says, blessed are the peacemakers, for they will be called children of God. Blessed are the peacemakers. Now, the wording there is very important, because it says peacemaker. It does not say peacekeeper. Did you know there's a significant difference between being a peacemaker and being a peacekeeper? That's a good time to say yes. I bet Kennesaw said yes. It is a significant difference between being a peacemaker and being a peacekeeper. Peacekeepers always walk around on eggshells because they're terrified of saying and or doing something that's going to set off the other person. They are a peacekeeper. People that are peacekeepers, they don't always share how they really feel, and they'll start apologizing for things they didn't even do. Now, I'm not here to tell you that that means you're a horrible person. I'm here to tell you, man, this is something to be aware of. Because some of you walk around in your relationships and you're afraid to tell people how they come across. You're afraid to tell people how you feel when you're in their presence. And this is not just a marriage thing. This is, you have friends that you have to be careful what you say around all the time. And sometimes has it ever occurred to you that maybe this is not the person that you should surround yourself with all the time? You're just walking around, you're kind of tiptoeing through their life, making sure that you don't say anything that's going to be offensive to them, and you kind of dismiss all the hurtful things that they say to you. You almost become defensive. At times you have to be whenever you are around those kind of people. You start to have resentment. You ever resented somebody and you're not even really sure what it is that they did in particular? It's almost the thing that you resent is who they are, not even what they did. That's not good. I mean, sometimes there's people, if you say, and this is not good, I'm doing a whole series on forgiveness because I need to learn how to forgive a couple people in the world. And there's some people out there, when I hear the name, even if it's not talking about the person that I'm a little bit irritated towards, I don't like that person because they have the same name as that other person. And I don't want to be around somebody where I have to keep saying their name. Is that real bad? That's kind of bad. That seems bad. That seems like I need the Lord to help me. But before you judge me, I bet you feel the same way a lot of times. We can all get help together. We got a forgiveness series, and it'll come, and it'll be great. But nonetheless, the byproduct of being a peacekeeper is resentment and distance. And then you'll always see this too. You'll see passive aggressiveness. And it usually, you ever seen the like ultra passive aggressive person online? Usually those people are peacekeepers. And they're afraid to have one-on-one conversations with the people that they're actually talking about. So they'll do a shotgun approach and they'll put one statement online that's meant for one person, but they'll send it to their 2,000 friends because they don't have the courage to actually speak up to the one. And so then what happens is 2,000 friends, because they all struggle with insecurity, they all secretly wonder if that one post was targeted towards them. So now they walk on eggshells towards you because they're peacemaker or they're peacekeepers also. You see what happens? And so what happens is, it says in Matthew chapter 5, verse 9, blessed are the peacemakers. In other words, sometimes you have to fight for peace. Because if not, you're just going to have surface level relationships your entire life with the people with whom you are supposed to have intimate relationships with. I need to say this because some people don't know, and it sounds kind of weird in a church context, but most of your relationships are going to be surface level, and that's okay. I need to let some of you off the hook. It's okay. And the reason being is that you don't have the relational bandwidth to have more than surface level relationships with most people. I can't have deep, intimate relationships with every single person I come in contact with. I'm not that smart. I'm not that good. I don't have that good of a memory. I mean, I don't have the relational bandwidth. I don't have enough words. Devin will say something to me sometimes, and I'll have come home, and maybe I had just recorded a video message or done some speaking somewhere or just been in a meeting, been in meetings all day long, and she'll ask me something, and then I'll try to answer, but my words are few. And she knows because we've been married for a long time now. She goes, oh, you're out of words, aren't you? Okay, we'll talk about this tomorrow. And did you know that this is a true thing? Girls have like exponentially more words than boys most of the time. Scientifically, that's true. I'm not just saying that. That's true. Scientifically, most females have way more words than guys do. And so once guys hit their word quota, we're like, That's why when you ask, did we have a good day? And we say, yes, that is like a totally sufficient answer. Because that really did, you know what it means? It means yes. We really did. I'm not going to tell you what sauce I put on the chicken nugget. I'm not going to tell you what happened. Uh-oh, I knocked over Fred. Here's Fred. I'm not going to tell you what happens. That's what Fred feels like whenever he uses all his words. It just falls down. Praise the Lord. But you don't want to have surface level relationships with your spouse. And you don't want to have surface level relationships with the people with whom you call your best friend. And the reason that we don't is because we've got to understand that whatever God begins, Satan opposes. Anything that God begins, Satan will oppose. Because he knows that when there is division, there's weakness. But when there's unity, there's strength. This is why he always does everything that he possibly can do to try to come between you. And you know what I've learned? I've learned this over the years in my own life, but I've also learned it just watching people. I love watching people. I'm a people watcher. I'm very ADD, so as a result, I'll be walking through the mall and I'm just looking at every single person when they walk by. I don't understand how you can pull up at a red light and not look at the people next to you. I don't understand that. You've seen those people and they pull up and they just look straight. I'm like, how in God's name do you even do that? Or there's people that are in our office, if they put on their headphones, they can just get work done, right? I mean, there could be a circus going on around them. People could be dancing. It could be crazy. And if they got their headphones in, they are locked in. I get distracted by every single thing possible. There could be, it does not matter how big or how small. I'm not even on the same floor as most of the people. And I'll hear something, I'll be like, I heard laughter upstairs. That means they're having fun. I'm not laughing. They're laughing. They're having more fun than me. I want to go up there and see why they're laughing. This is how it is in my life. But with division and with unity and with all the different things that are happening, I forgot what I was talking about just now. I was sitting there, I'm like, where was I going with that? Let me remember. Oh, yeah. What I figured out going through life is that sometimes Satan will do his best, and what will happen is he'll divide you before you ever even meet your spouse. He'll put things between you and your spouse before you even know your spouse exists. For example, there's all kind of things. One of the things that can come between people pretty quickly, you see what that is, right? It's a credit card. A lot of times, one of the things that can happen is we can make some really bad decisions financially that cause us, remember we talked about this last week, you lug what you load? And a lot of times we lug around so much debt. Did you know that the number one reason for divorce right now is financial issues? Because when finances are all screwed up, it brings so much pressure and it brings so much stress and strain into the relationship. It's very difficult for you to be intimate with another person just in the context of your own emotional bandwidth. And what's happened is over time, instead of till death do us part, it's become till debt do us part. And some of us, the mistakes we make before we get married. I mean, sometimes it's not that, sometimes it's afterwards. Sometimes, you ever seen this? Can y'all see that? What did I say his name was? Fred and Tina. Fred and Tina sitting in a tree, Kissing. First comes love, then comes marriage, then comes Gwendolyn in the baby carriage. I got to remember these names. Fred, Tina, Gwendolyn. All right, we're good. A lot of times, a blessing from God can become a distraction if you allow your focus to be on the wrong thing or the wrong person. There's so many relationships that end or that just barely make it through, or they just survive because they have gotten their strategy wrong, and to them it has become Jesus first, my children second, my spouse third. The greatest thing you can do for your kids if you're currently married, the greatest thing that you can do for your kids is to have a strong relationship with their mom or their dad. And the reason I say how important this is because I've noticed this even this year, how many marriages end the moment the last kid graduates from high school. And it's like this empty nest thing. And what happens is with the empty nest, if you didn't have a great marriage, an empty nest equals an empty marriage. Because if the kids were the focal point of your marriage, then it might be that you really didn't have a marriage. I hear it inside of my brain. It's just embrace the awkward silence. Embrace it. I mean, sometimes maybe it's, let's do it a little bit different. Sometimes it's just your phone. There's nowhere for me to put this. Sometimes it's just your phone. And a lot of times now it's not even like talking on the phone as much as it is playing on the phone. Did you know it's pretty easy? Real talk, it's pretty easy for me to come home and at a certain time of the night, like all my words are done. So I sit on the couch and I just start, I'm more up to date on what's going on in everybody else's life, maybe even than I am in my own family. Now, the same thing's true, could be true with Devin as well. Maybe, I always wondered what it would be like if there was somebody just videotaping our life and we were to watch it back, how many hours we would spend in the same room with each other, but looking at content on a screen. Isn't that weird? Because we like the likes and we like the comments and we like the interaction or whatever the case may be, it's real easy. And then what happens is, if we're not careful too, let me move these guys down. What happens next is, if there's no intimacy, usually the couple will stop dating. And those of you that are not married yet, you need to write some of this stuff down. I think dating is more important after you get married than it is before you get married. And I need you to know, if you refuse to date your wife, somebody else will. Now, he's a short little guy, but he's powerful. I don't know why he's so much smaller than the other two. That's funny. If you don't date your spouse, somebody else will. You got to guard the relationship. You got to guard it with everything it is that you have because, to be honest, Satan will do anything he can possibly do to divide the two. He does not want the two of you walking side by side, hand in hand, till death do you part. He wants the opposite of that. And for us, I just think that if we're all honest, I think every single person here in any relationship that you have has some things that we probably could do better. Doesn't matter if you have an amazing marriage. I have an amazing marriage, but there's stuff we can do better. I have amazing friendships, but there's stuff that we could do better. I want to consistently get better. I want to consistently move the ball down the field. I want to consistently go to the next level. And anytime I need to go to the next level, I need to consult the owner's manual on how to do it. If something's wrong with my car because I don't know how to fix anything, if there's something that seems small wrong with my car, I look at the owner's manual and I turn to page whatever, and it tells me what it is that I'm supposed to do because I figure the people that made the car know more about the car than me. That's why whenever we dive into God's word on a consistent basis, it can show us more about how to fix our relationships than some of our friends can at Starbucks. A lot of us, we complain that God is silent, but we do so with an empty Bible in the room next door. So what is it that God says? It says that you're supposed to step into conflict, absolutely, but you better know that there's a right way and a wrong way to step into conflict. If you step into conflict the right way, you're going to step in some other stuff as well. You know what I'm talking about? Say yes. Praise the Lord. Here's the second thing you need to know. You got to stay cool. Stay cool. Say stay cool. Watch this. Proverbs chapter 15, verse 1. A gentle answer turns away wrath, but a harsh word stirs up anger. Did you know half the time it's not what you said, it's how you said it that gets you in trouble? You could have said the exact same thing, but you could have just said it nicer. You could have not sounded so dang antagonistic. You could have sounded like less of a smart-a. You know what I'm talking about. You don't have to come across like a jerk. The problem is, those of you that said you're a fighter, we're usually more interested in winning than we are understanding. And you can make a difference or you can make a point, but you very rarely make both. That's true in your real deal relationships. That's also true online, by the way. A lot of you, nobody can listen to you online anymore because you sacrificed your platform because of something you said 6 months ago. And now nobody takes you seriously. It's crazy, isn't it? Because a lot of times it's just how it is that we say the things it is that we say. I was reading this thing about cheetahs, and I was like, all right, cheetahs. It's the ugliest cheetah I've ever seen. You can't see it as close as I do, but this cheetah needs a haircut. This is a haircut-needing cheetah. But cheetahs are the fastest land animal on the planet, according to the research that I looked at. Fastest land animal on the planet, that is a cheetah. They can run up to 75 miles an hour. That's fast. Now, they can't do it for very long. They can do it quickly, and then they have to stop because, get this, when their brain temperature hits 105 degrees, they have to stop and pant to get oxygen back to their brain to cool themselves down. Or if they continue to push it, they'll fall over dead. It's crazy. Now, one of the things that they like to eat out in the wild are these guys, gazelles. Because some of you are like, what the heck is that thing? That's a gazelle. I wouldn't have known what that was unless I was doing the illustration. That is a gazelle. Now, cheetahs love to chase after gazelles. Now, gazelles are pretty dang fast as well. Gazelles can run quickly, but they can't run as quickly as a cheetah, which is a problem when the cheetah likes to eat you. Now, the difference, though, between a gazelle and a cheetah is a gazelle can't run as fast, but a gazelle can run much further. And the reason a gazelle can run much further is because they can go until their brains hit 109, but the way that they were created by God, when they breathe, there is a mechanism that cools their brain so that they're able to continue to move when they are being pursued. That's why when you watch online, like Animal Planet or the Discovery Channel or something like that, the cheetahs, they're always trying to sneak up on the gazelles, because if they don't sneak up on it and the gazelle sees them coming, the gazelle knows, I can't run faster than the cheetah, but as long as I can run long enough, that cheetah will give up because I am more awesome. That's what the gazelle is thinking. So what's funny is, so as a result, the gazelle's brain very rarely gets to that temperature because of the mechanism that keeps its brain cooler. It is a literal example in nature of what it means to say that cooler heads prevail. In life, if the person with the cooler head, I'm not talking about the peacekeeper, I'm talking about the one who can do what they need to do, but can do it without losing their temper, can do it without raising their voice, can do it without going on the attack, usually those people are the ones that are able to navigate relationships more effectively. You gotta be able to stay cool. The second thing you gotta do is you gotta sweat the small stuff. You ever heard that? How many of you have heard that phrase, don't sweat the small stuff? That's dumb. And the reason that it's dumb is because, do you know what happens if you don't sweat the small stuff? The small stuff gets bigger. Most of the big problems that we have in our relationships were at one time small problems that we refused to deal with. If you're unwilling to make peace when the problem is small, then that small problem will eventually become a big problem. I mean, watch this. Song of Solomon chapter 2, verse 15 says this, catch all the foxes, those little foxes, before they ruin the vineyard of love, for the grapevines are blossoming. Now, I don't know, those of you that have been around freedom for a long time, this is one of my favorite books of the Bible to preach on because it's all about love, sex, and romance, and it gets real crazy, real fast. The entire book of the Bible, you're like, dear Lord, I mean, this is rated R to the extreme, 50 Shades of Grey almost in the context of Song of Solomon. It gets crazy. And one of the things he says is, you got to make sure that the small stuff doesn't sabotage what God's trying to do in your life. So you've got to learn what it means to sweat the small stuff. That's why you got to deal with the porn addiction when it's small. That's why you got to deal with the flirty relationship you have at work when it's small. If you deal with the flirty relationship when it's small, then it won't turn into the full-blown affair. If you deal with the conflict when it's small, then you don't lose your brain and lose it while you're sitting in traffic right next to the person that you say you love. Your friendships last longer. You don't get passive aggressive and post a bunch of crazy stuff on Facebook just because you said you needed to vent. You got to deal with the small stuff. You got to figure out a way to make sure that the small stuff in your life you realize is the stuff that can bring you down. And by the way, I need to say this. I'm not even supposed to say it. It's supposed to be for another week, but I feel like the Holy Spirit is telling me to say. That's why some of us that are in this room need to stop thinking that we're above certain temptations. You ever had a friend do something stupid and you thought in your mind, I would never do something like that? You're next. I would never cheat on my spouse. I would never have a flirty relationship at work. The moment that you start thinking you're above something, Satan will come after you because he knows where he got you. Solomon was the wisest man that ever lived, and sex got him. The wisest man that ever lived, and sex got him. In other words, he's wiser than you, and sex brought him down. Goliath was the strongest man. Samson, let's use a positive example. Samson was one of the strongest men that ever lived. You know what got him? Sex. In other words, he's stronger than you. He's stronger than that little short man I had up there on that cape. And sex got him too. Don't think that you're above something. You got to stop it when it's small. Stop it when it's small. You got to sweat the small stuff. The fourth thing, I think, you got to surround with support. Surround with support. Watch this. Proverbs chapter 13, verse 20. This is going to help you right here. I mean, this is worth the price of admission right here. Walk with the wise and become wise. For a companion of fools suffers harm. Walk with the wise and become wise. For a companion of fools suffers harm. That's why we've been saying in the context even of this relationship series, be careful the advice that you are receiving, because there are always people out there that are willing to validate your bad decisions. A companion of fools suffers harm. That's why you got to walk with the wise. That's why the first place you got to turn is to the owner's manual. The first place you got to look is you got to say, what does God say about this scenario? What does God say about this situation? We've done relationship series in the past talking about the fact that the direction of your life is determined by the connections that are in your life. Who do you surround yourself with? Whose advice are you listening to? Who are those people that bring out the best in you? Who are those people that you're getting advice from that are brave enough to tell you what you don't want to hear? I'm not talking about the people that you could literally post anything you wanted to online, even if it was ridiculous and terrible, and there would be people who would like it, there would be people who would share it, and there would be people who would validate it. That does not mean that it was a good decision. Because a companion of fools, can I say it a different way? Stupid friends lead to stupid decisions. Write that down. You got to be careful. Surround yourself with support. Surround yourself with people who are willing to tell you the truth. Because when you do, all of a sudden, now you are walking with the wise. And guess what? You will become wise. That means you're going to get better. You're going to be better 6 months from now than you are today. People will see me sometimes and they'll say, man, you're not the same person you used to be. And I used to think that that was a negative thing. Now I'm like, thank you for noticing. You don't want to be the same person that you were yesterday. Because if you're the same person that you were yesterday, you wasted 24 hours. If you're the same person that you were 5 years ago, you've wasted 5 years. If you're the same person that you were in high school at your 20th reunion, that means you're still immature. Walk with the wise, become wise. Walk with fools, become even more foolish. But here's some good news. Colossians chapter 1, verse 19 says this, for God was pleased to have all his fullness dwell in him, and through him to reconcile to himself all things, whether things on earth or things in heaven, by making, see this? By making peace. Say making peace. By making peace through his blood shed on the cross. Do you know how God made peace between himself and mankind? He made peace by allowing his son Jesus to die a violent death. He didn't shrink back. He didn't sit down in the corner. He didn't let Satan get the victory. He said, I'm going to make peace. And as a result, once you were alienated from God, in other words, once we were far from God and were enemies in your minds because of your evil behavior. He's talking about every single person that's ever been born onto this planet. But now, through his blood and through what Jesus did on the cross, we who were far from God can experience life in Christ. Once we who walked with the foolish can now make a shift and walk with the wise. Now, those of us who have messed up every previous relationship that we've ever been in, from this day forward, because of the Spirit of God that lives inside of you, because now, from this day forward, you're willing to fight for it and not just in it. God can do some things in your life. He can accomplish in a moment what you've been unable to accomplish over the course of your lifetime. He can change you from the inside out. He can bring peace. He can bring joy. He can bring hope. He can bring courage. He can bring strength. He can bring reconciliation. Whatever it is you need, he can do it. That song that we just sang a moment ago about Yahweh. Let me tell you the background of this song. It becomes even better. When you think about Moses, he's getting ready to hear from God. He's hearing from God. He's getting ready to go into Israel, and he's nervous. And he says, if I'm getting ready to go tell Israel that we're supposed to follow, that they're supposed to follow me, and we're supposed to exit this place called Egypt, what is it that I'm supposed to tell them? Who is it that I'm supposed to tell them sent me? And God says, tell them I am sent you. And when you first read it, you're like, what does that mean? Here's what it means. When you need peace, I am. When you need patience, I am. When you need joy, I am. When you need hope, I am. When you need reconciliation, I am. When you need the touch of God, I am. Whatever it is you need, God says, I am that. Whatever it is you need, I am the one. Whatever it is you're hoping for, I am the one. Whatever it is you were missing out on, I am the one. I am the one that can change you from the inside out. That's what he's talking about. That's why we celebrate. That's why we don't give up. That's why even when we all think back, we're like, holy smokes. Have you ever been discouraged because you look back and you're like, man, I've messed up everything I touched up until this point? Or you even evaluate your current relationship, and if you were honest, you would say, I'm even jacking that up right now. I'm not worried about your past. Can't change it. But God can change your future by allowing you to make a shift in the present. And that's my prayer for you right now. Would you stand to your feet all over the room at both of our locations? I'm just going to pray for you. And my prayer today is this. My prayer is that God would help you to know that there is hope. That he would help you to know that it is worth the battle. That fighting for it is far better than just fighting in it. That it does not matter what your past looks like. God can restore all things. And so maybe that's what you need right now. Would you pray with me? Dear Lord, I love you.